Hello class, welcome to my presentation. I'm currently in Washington, D.C. at the Women's March, so Em will be taking care of a little bit of timing, pausing, and playing for one portion of the activity. Just FYI. So this last summer I had a job as a dishwasher in a Korean restaurant, and every Saturday Mrs. Cho, the restaurant owner's mom, would come into the dishwashing section and she would help me wash dishes and she gave me Korean desserts. But we never actually talked. I knew that she was from South Korea and she moved to America a long time ago, but that's all I knew. I was curious about her background in Korea, why she moved to America, and how she's been treated in both areas. So now I'll give you a little rundown of Mrs. Cho's story. That's a picture of her and her husband with their grandchildren. So Mrs. Cho and her husband moved to America from South Korea 31 years ago to pursue better opportunities for their 3 children. This means that Mrs. Cho has spent half her life in South Korea and the other half in America. And although she's spent so much time in America, she still feels more Korean because she mainly speaks Korean, she spends most of her time with her Korean family, and she attends a small Korean church. So for this portion of the presentation, I'm going to be discussing some main themes that Mrs. Cho brought up throughout the interview, and I'll be talking about Mrs. Cho's relationship with these themes, and then my relationship with these themes, and then later we'll do an activity about who's more American based off of these. Time spent in America. As I said before, Mrs. Cho has lived in Korea half her life and America the other half her life. Although I have moved 7 times in my life so far, once to a different state, I've lived in the United States for my entire life. How we spend our time. Mrs. Cho spends most of her time with Koreans. She enjoys speaking Korean with her Korean children, husband, and grandchildren. She also enjoys eating Korean food at her son's Korean restaurant, the restaurant that I worked at. She also attends a Korean church in Beaverton where she prays with a small community of Koreans, as she puts it. I also enjoy spending time with my family. We eat together every night. We enjoy watching Parks and Rec, and we vacation together sometimes. I also like to spend time with my friends. We like to eat at Little Big Burger, Poke Bowl. We also like to talk and sometimes debate about life's bigger questions, and we enjoy swimming in the Willamette River. Language. Because Mrs. Cho spends so much of her time with her family and her religious community, she mainly speaks Korean. She only speaks English when talking to customers or to family friends, and I am one of those family friends. During the interview, I actually realized for the first time that she speaks broken English. Usually when we would talk at the restaurant, she would reply with a nod or a smile or a one-word answer, so I never really fully heard her speak. During the interview, she had difficulty enunciating some of her feelings or describing things in detail. To many of the open-ended questions I asked, she replied with different or difficult, and then when I asked her about her broken English, she replied with, "My age, sometimes I think, and it comes out different." So this language barrier has made it really difficult for Mrs. Cho to interact with people who don't speak Korean. That's a large percentage of the United States. I speak English basically all the time. At work, though, and this is at an American restaurant that I work at now, and I work there 5 hours per week, and I speak strictly Spanish. Sometimes it's awkward. I usually have to ask them to repeat what they said, and sometimes I just laugh, hoping that it was some sort of a joke, so I can understand what Mrs. Cho is going through language-wise, I guess, for 5 hours out of the week, but for all the other hours, I just speak English. Views on America. Mrs. Cho loves America. When I asked her why she moved to the United States, she said, and she speaks in broken English, so this is exactly how I'll read it. His uncle said for kids it's a better life. And then in Korea, we live in Seoul, and then too many people. Oregon is clear air. It's a lot better than Korea. That's why we moved here. And here, a lot of people dream. I personally do not love America that much. I have a lot of problems mainly with the inequalities coming both from the state and from the people regarding race, religion, gender, sexuality, how people view other people with different political views as them. I don't love America that much, but I wouldn't say that I'm not American. For this portion, after hearing both the themes and both stories of Mrs. Cho's and mine, you're going to get with a partner and you're going to decide, 1, if someone is or seems more American, 2, and then 2, discuss what it means to be American for you. So you have 1.5 minutes to talk with your partner about this, and then once the time is up, each pair will go around and briefly, in about 1 or 2 sentences, decide or declare what you have concluded or answer the question. Okay, so now you're going to pause the video. And then... So now I'm going to discuss what it means to be an American to me. Although by transitioning, I don't know what you guys said. I would probably say something like, interesting how there are so many different views on what it means to be American. Or I would say, wow, maybe there really is only one definition of American. Anyway, after talking with Mrs. Cho and realizing that we have very, very, very little in common, but we were still able to interact happily and friendly to each other, I thought about what it meant to be an American for me. And I think that being American, with all of the differences between Mrs. Cho and me, or me and you, or you and your grandma, it means that we're able to share and listen and learn and grow. I think that it's our job as Americans to not always respect someone's opinions or beliefs or ideas. In fact, you can debate about those, but I think it's really to respect other people as humans, despite the differences.